Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. Purple Clock was reduced to ashes from the explosion. Just as he was reforming, Luo Feng found him and he was stunned. How can this be? The time between my reforming is only that short. How did he rush over in such a short time? Unless the Flame God crystal explosion didn't destroy his body. That's impossible. In truth, Luo Feng's body was fine from the explosion. Back then, in the sacrificial tower, when the elder Chiao Kai Ka had exploded in the room, Luo Feng could withstand it head-on. This Flame God crystal explosion was tens of times stronger than that one. Back then, the room was completely shut. This explosion, however, happened in such a vast space. Theoretically speaking, the enclosed explosion back then would definitely create a bigger force. Chiao Kai Ka had exploded alone. This time, however, there were two crystals. After the two were combined, it add up to 10 times the explosion force of Chiao Kai Ka's in the enclosed room. Back then, Luo Feng's cloud contact armor was at pinnacle official level, and its sturdiness was akin to a low emperor. Now, it was a low emperor, but was akin to a high emperor human. Through the Showu wings and general armor diffusing the force to only 1,000th, akin to a low emperor explosion, and with the high emperor cloud contact armor, it only barely managed to break through the cloud contact armor slightly. Hence, it was unable to completely destroy it. Compared to the tower back then, the explosion this time was 10 times stronger, but my cloud contact armor has also grown. You were all reduced to ashes, but I'm totally fine. Luo Feng rushed straight through the explosion. Accurately speaking, it was because of the wings and the general armor that the cloud contact vine could withstand it. As long as it could do that, Luo Feng would be fine. He easily withstood the force, plus Purple Clock was only a few thousands kilometer away. With just a flap of his wings, he naturally reached beside him. Just as Purple Clock was reforming, Luo Feng acted according to his plan and slashed him with the poison shadow blade. This blade was vicious. How could he get here so fast? Purple Clock was filled with suspicion. However, as he realized Luo Feng's blade slash over, he mocked, "Even the Flame God crystal couldn't kill me. Your blade cannot even tear through my undying body. It's simply too, A blade slashed through. The poison shadow blade tore into his broken undying body, and right away the Famo poison began to destroy his body into pieces. No. Purple Clock was completely shocked by the poison. He instantly chose to break off that part of his undying body, but it was too late. An emperor limit required about 10 drops of poison to die, but a pinnacle emperor only needed 1 drop. And usually with quick reflexes, one slash would only have about 0.3 to 0.8 drops of poison entering the body. Purple Clock only had less than 50% of his body left. The 0.72 drops of poison instantly ran through his body onto every fragment, invading every cell. He had no way to defend against it. It's over. He instantly understood. I'm about to die. He was filled with rage and regret. However, before he died, he swiftly connected to the virtual world. Virtual world. Mass send. Send mail to everyone. His consciousness formed a body that stood in the living room and raged. According to his plan, one part of it was if he couldn't deal with Yang, he would drag in a large number of other emperors. He had prepared this mail long ago, even the location and coordinates were in the cave he was in. The mail was sent out like snowflakes, instantly reaching large numbers of emperors in the automaton camp. That Yang has appeared. Where? Sacrificial tower treasure. Ha ha ha. His appeared. The large number of emperors received the mail and immediately reacted. Even though they were very excited, these emperors weren't stupid. They couldn't teleport immediately, because there were very few that could actually teleport, and also, what if it was a trap? Hence, they began to form their alliances. With groups of emperors together, they would be much stronger and less fearful of a trap. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Purple Clock felt his consciousness crumble. He simply looked up and laughed madly. He didn't lead an ordinary life. having acquired the ancient clock, and even killing 2 emperor limits, and many other pinnacle emperors. He was definitely considered an absolute being amongst the Chi-Chang race. In his heart he still had hopes of becoming a knight, of becoming a greater being. However, because he messed with the human yang, even though he had prepared adequately, none of his plans could be used in time. The flame god crystal explosion and the Fei Mo poison instantly took his life. Even if I die, don't think you'll get off easy. He howled fiercely. His consciousness became a bubble and broke, vanishing forever. He would never reappear. Even though he was from the automaton camp, the high and mighty universe masters of the automaton race may revive a large number of warriors in the future. However, for the Chi-Chang race, they would at most revive the emperor limits. Even if his luck was good and he was chosen, because he had fused with the ancient clock, it had a great effect on the revival. The backlash from the revival would be akin to the revival of a knight. Hence, once the universe masters discover the ancient clock on him, they would most probably give up on reviving him. Having true treasures and falling made it harder for revival. And if one wanted to forcefully destroy the treasure and revive, the price would be 10 to hundreds of times that of the treasure itself. Simply carrying the treasure alone made revival extra hard. Purple Clock, who had the ancient clock, was set never to be revived. Unless the universe master was willing to take the backlash. Purple Clock, hence, fell. In the distant regions of Yangji continent, there were many emperors from the automaton camp that were chatting within the virtual world. The warriors with teleportation began to gather the others all together. And Meng Emperor, the news suddenly broke out, and it's from Purple Clock Emperor. It was obviously sent in a group mail to all the warriors. Would this be some ploy? A group of oddly appearing emperors all gathered in mid-air. The only similarity they shared was they were all from the automaton camp. It might be some trap. But it could be true too. The group all communicated. Suddenly one short and stony god shouted, "I tried contacting Purple Clock. The virtual world informed me that is fallen." Already fallen. Dead? All the suspicious emperors had tried too. The virtual world system did reply to them all, letting them know that he had fallen. This made them instantly trust the message that was sent. At least 90%. The system's record of his death meant he was connected when he fell, hence it naturally knew of his situation. Everything had to be scanned before confirmed. Like the Yunmo planet master Hu Yangbo, he had never opened his connection to the virtual universe to scan himself. When he fell over 10,000 years ago, no one ever knew. Hurry and go. Purple Clock has fallen, the battle must have been intense. The group all shouted excitedly. However, large amounts of our automaton warriors will definitely go. With our numbers, we need not fear him. We can teleport directly to hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the location. Even if there's trouble, we'll be prepared. Let's go. The group instantly vanished and rushed to the fight. Even though they all had different levels of strength, with even some low emperors, they weren't afraid. Because there was no killing within the same camp. As long as large amounts of them worked together, they would be naturally safe. What's more, killing an emperor wasn't exactly an easy thing to do. They all regarded Purple Clock's death as something that the enemy had to pay a huge price for. Yangji continent, in the distant Star Tower. Groups and groups of automaton emperors began to teleport to the fight. Of course, the emperors in Yangji continent naturally reached first. As for the distant Star Tower, they first had to find a safe spot before teleporting via God Country, and finally teleporting to the target spot. This alone took quite some time. At the battleground, the broken space began to madly recover. One could visibly see the space reforming. Ah! Blood Beast Emperor howled, as his body was completely reformed. I actually lost 42% of my undying body. How long would it take me to recover? His single eye was filled with rage. The loss of his body meant the loss of his soul, and such a huge loss required a long time to recover. He could actually use treasures in the universe to assist in the recovery, but they were all incredibly expensive. Hence, how could he afford to do so? On the other end, I lost 59% of my undying body. Heavy Arrow had it worse. I don't even have 10% of my original strength. Even a pinnacle emperor can suppress me. Even though the strongest flame god crystal had the ability to kill an emperor limit, who wouldn't have their own defenses. Special armor or techniques to decrease attacks, 20%, 30%, along with plant life forms, metal life forms etc., emperor limits would normally have all of these. Even so, they still suffered heavy losses. At the other end, the silver-winged and armored Luo Feng wielded the poison shadow blade. Looking at the items left behind from the fallen purple clock, he swept the world rings, armor, ancient clock, and everything into his own world ring. Thanks, purple clock. Luo Feng said softly. He turned, tens of thousands of kilometers away, the space shook violently, as tens of emperors suddenly appeared. In another direction, the space shook too as groups and groups of emperors began to arrive. When the first batch of 10 emperors appeared tens of thousands of kilometers away, Blood Beast, Heavy Arrow, and Luo Feng were on the move. I've lost 42% of my undying body, and that human actually withstood the entire blast. It's unbelievable. If he uses another flame god crystal, I may fall. It isn't worth losing my life over the sacrificial tower treasure. Blood Beast swiftly flew at his max speed, trying to rush out of the space lock area. Flee. The damaged Heavy Arrow chose the same path. These two were scared off by the explosion. The first explosion destroyed everything around them. With two strongest flame god crystals, that was akin to 200 billion indigo gems instantly reduced to nothing. Its power, however, was shocking. To survive this first wave alone was hard enough, they didn't have the confidence to take another. They both flew simultaneously in different directions. There's just this one human. He can only chase one of us, and the space lockdown area is only so small. There is no way he can get both of us. Both emperors' thoughts were similar. With a diameter of 10,000 kilometers, this was truly very small area to such warriors. As long as they rushed straight out, if Luo Feng hesitated for even a second, they would be able to escape. However, at Luo Feng's level, how could he lose focus at the critical moment? Heavy Arrow suffered more damage. I'll deal with him first. He flapped his wings and shot after Heavy Arrow. Ha ha. Blood Beast and Luo Feng flew in different directions. He naturally escaped the space lock region. I won't stay here any longer. He glanced at the stunned 10 emperors that just appeared. Smiling coldly, those punks, they can only hope the human doesn't go crazy again. If he does, their little bit of strength would be destroyed by the flame god crystals. It's time to leave. He didn't dare stay any longer. He vanished and teleported far away. The automaton camp and Meng Emperor, and the other group of tens of emperors had just arrived. But, the scene in front of them certainly shocked them. An area over 10 million kilometers of vast land, rivers, mountains, snow, everything was gone, leaving nothing but a wasteland. The ripples from the terrifying explosion before were still resonating around the area. Just the ripples alone were enough to make the emperors shudder. What shocked them even more was the incredibly renowned and invincible Heavy Arrow and Blood Beast Emperor. These two emperor limits were fleeing madly in two different directions. Blood Beast managed to escape and teleport. Heavy Arrow, however, was being chased by a silver-winged and armored human. Just what happened here? Madness. This. The emperors were all stunned and pondering as the scene before them was simply too unexpected. What sort of attack would reduce such a huge area to nothing? How terrifying of an attack was this? Even an emperor limit wouldn't be able to do so much damage. Madness. It's no wonder Purple Clock fell. What happened here? Blood Beast and Heavy Arrow are both emperor limits. How can they be losing? Blood Beast has escaped, but Heavy Arrow is being chased. They were stunned. In mid-air another batch of emperors appeared, and another. The many groups began to rush over as the numbers quickly exceeded 100. However, when they arrived, they were all stunned. According to the explosion ripples and the area of Wasteland, they could easily deduce just how terrifying the attack was. It was able to completely destroy all of them. And the scene of Heavy Arrow fleeing scared them. What's going on in Meng? Why is Heavy Arrow being chased? Another group of emperors that arrived later asked. Not just him, Blood Beast was scared off earlier. Blood Beast escaped. Isn't he good friends with Heavy Arrow? Who knows? Purple Clock has fallen. I feel that this may be troublesome. Attention all, this doesn't seem too good. I'll take my leave first. Su. A Pinnacle Emperor immediately teleported away. What a joke. Any of them being able to survive till Emperor level would all be incredibly wise. If even Blood Beast escaped and Heavy Arrow was being chased, while Purple Clock fell a while ago, including the tens of millions of kilometers of Wasteland, it all proved one thing. It proved that this area was extremely dangerous. A point where even Emperor limits could fall. Since their strength difference was obvious, the naturally wiser ones would choose to leave. Look! Heavy Arrow is in danger. The stunned emperors all looked on at the distant battle. Luo Feng had picked Heavy Arrow to attack, because he had suffered greater damage. Normally, any Undying with 50% damage on his Undying body would only have 10% of their strength left. One had to know that the initial small losses on the Undying body didn't affect their strength much, but as the damage grew, the effect became more absurd. Losing within 10% of the Undying body had almost no effect at all on their strength. Losing 30% would leave only 50% of their strength. Losing 50% would leave only 10%. Losing 70% would leave less than 1% of their strength. After losing 90%, they would fall into a coma and they would lose their consciousness. Only after long periods of time in their comatose state they might slowly recover, or even slowly fade away until they died. Anyway, in that state, they had no defense at all. It was clear that the loss of the Undying body had a huge effect on their strength. After losing 59% of my Undying body, my strength is only a little stronger than a High Emperor. Heavy Arrow was worried as he saw Luo Feng catching up. His silver wings left 3 warps in space and he immediately caught up. The two of them had a huge difference in speed. Die Heavy Arrow. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed coldly. Human, don't get ahead of yourself. Heavy Arrow immediately pulled out a completely black and silver bow with an arrow lodged in the middle. It was rare to see a bow and arrow user in the universe, because it couldn't compare to a spirit weapon. However, the genuinely knowledgeable users were terrifying. Relying on the bow itself, it could amplify their strength greatly. The bow launched the arrow. A black arrow with yellow traces tore through tens of kilometers. The land and skies were silent as a long slit was left in the space. The power of the arrow was obviously condensed, even the slit was incredibly fine. However, as the arrow hit Luo Feng's wings, it barely even moved a feather. Since it could even withstand the Flame God crystal explosion, naturally this was nothing. You only had that one chance. Luo Feng flapped his wings and got close, not giving his enemy another chance. Die. He brandished the poisoned shadow blade. With both the wings and blade, he unleashed Moon Policy. Using his own pinnacle technique with his High Emperor strength, with the Showa wings' internal space energy, it had terrifying tearing abilities. The power of his attack was amplified further as the wings produced a silver light, slashing through Heavy Arrow's armor, and the poison blade slashed at his Undying body. What? He didn't even have time to dodge as he got slashed, feeling the Fei Mo poison begin to invade his body. Tear. He wanted to cut off that part of his Undying body. Cloud Contact Vine. Luo Feng wouldn't give him the chance. 10 vines shot out from his shoulder and fiercely wrapped about Heavy Arrow. Heavy Arrow had originally lost 59% of his Undying body. That slash earlier made him lose over 80% of his power. Even the Cloud Contact Vine could forcefully hold him at this point, and the most peculiar thing was the 3 vines that wrapped around him had 3 thorns that pierced deep into his body and held him in place. The slash earlier along with the 3 stabs, all contained Fei Mo poison on it. Luo Feng had managed to create 9 thorns with the poison, and every one of them with 30 drops of the Fei Mo poison. However, because he was already in a tragic state before, having lost 59% of his Undying body, it made his overall body fall to only 12%. The three thorns immediately pulled themselves out. They were afraid of staying within for too long, as it would immediately poison Heavy Arrow to death. Heavy Arrow's eyes went vacant as his consciousness faded, not even moving within the cloud contact vine. Even though 10% was the definite comatose level, according to the different levels of willpower, some would go into a coma at 15% or 16%. At this point, Heavy Arrow had fallen into a coma. Keep. Luo Feng immediately kept the comatose Heavy Arrow into a separate world ring. Everything happened extremely quickly. The other emperors around the area could all see that Heavy Arrow had already suffered huge losses, and from the battle after, his strength wasn't even at pinnacle emperor. The human's strength wasn't even enough to scare off the huge number of emperors. Hence many were still hesitating, with only very few having fled first. Most chose to simply stay and watch. The space ripples kept shaking as more batches of emperors arrived. Just one human. That's him, the human Yang. Kill. Get the treasure. The sixth batch had just arrived with 21 emperors. They saw that the one human Yang was surrounded by over 100 emperors. But they had no way to know that the earlier emperors were stunned by the scene before. By coming later, they didn't get to see Blood Beast fleeing, or Heavy Arrow being forced into a coma. They just assumed the human was surrounded. Hence, the greedy emperors decided to rush in first, and this batch of 21 completely went for it. Rumble. The greedy group of emperors became resplendent beams of light shooting straight at Luo Feng. This group of idiots. It's not their fault. If we didn't witness the scene of Blood Beast fleeing or Heavy Arrow entering his coma, we would have rushed in too if there was only one human there. Anyway, we are all from the same camp, we don't have to worry about fighting each other for the treasure. Just a matter of whoever gets it first. The other onlooking emperors chatted. His space lock had remained activated throughout. Luo Feng wielded his blood shadow blade and flapped his wings, floating up and gazing at the 18 silhouettes rushing over. There were 2 pinnacle emperors, 6 high emperors and 10 low emperors that rushed into his space lockdown area. Pitiful other race warriors, I'll use you to leave a message. Luo Feng muttered. Kill. Kill that human. Take the sacrificial tower treasure. The 18 emperors were all filled with killing intent, unleashing their energies as they rushed over. Luo Feng flapped his wings and became a blur. Shua. 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 He left warps in the air as he slashed straight at one high emperor. That undying was covered in flames all over, even his eyes were burning, and he wielded a huge metal chain. When Luo Feng rushed over, he whipped the chain forward to wrap about Luo Feng. Luo Feng became a demonic blur. He used the poison shadow blade to defend against the chain, and rushed close to the undying, unleashing moon policy. A glaring silver slash tore through the space, lasting long after. The slash tore through the armor of the undying and slashed his body. In an instant, it left 0.4 drops of Fei Mo poison on him. This immolating undying stared wide-eyed in shock, after which he instantly crumbled and fell. What? He's dead. How can a high emperor be killed instantly? The large group of emperors watching from far were all shocked. Even though many had seen Heavy Arrow fall into his comatose state, however the initial moment they saw him, he was already heavily damaged and was almost about to fall. Secondly, they guessed it was related to the cloud contact vine. This time, however, they witnessed the silver slash that slashed past the undying, instantly reducing the high emperor to nothing. This was a high emperor, and the cloud contact vine didn't even appear. Under normal circumstances, only an emperor limit could kill a low emperor that easily. As for a high emperor, to easily kill one was an extremely hard thing to do, unless one was an emperor proficient in soul attacks. Soul attacks were incredibly complex things, the power was terrifying, but at the same time, it was incredibly hard to use. Normally out of tens of emperors there would only occasionally be one who was proficient in it. Luo Feng's blade completely caused the onlooking emperors and other 17 rushing over to be shocked. The battle, however, didn't give these 17 time to think. The Fei Mo poison sure depletes fast. Luo Feng kept the goods of that fallen undying and flashed his wings, rushing at another low emperor. The blade only briefly touched the chain, and I lost about 0.5 drops. Also, I used another 0.2 drops on his armor, only 0.4 drops truly attacked his body. The weakness of the poison was obvious. Because it was melded with the blade, at an emperor-level fight, weapons would clash and the space about would be destroyed, and the force was several times that of stars clashing. Such a clash would use some of the poison on the blade. Hence, its optimum usage method was when Luo Feng used it to kill Purple Clock. First destroy the undying body, making them unable to defend. Then slash the undefendable body. Without the armor or weapon to defend, how easy would it be? However, destroying the undying body alone was tough. I am simply getting my money's worth. 300 billion mixed elements gets me 1 kilogram. Its power is not bad already. I can deal with the flaws. Luo Feng easily flashed past the low emperor's attack, and his silver slash flew past the head of that emperor, after which, he too crumbled. He had fallen. Killing a low emperor sure is easy, he's already weaker, and I only used 0.1 drops to break the armor. The other 0.3 drops completely attacked his body. Kill. Luo Feng rushed at another high emperor. His slashes were incredibly precise. As a self-created pinnacle technique, in terms of usage and precision, even the primal chaos city leader praised it. It was terrifying and beautiful. It was a slash that tore through the skies, with undyings falling. Each slash resulted in emperors falling. No one could withstand it, as every slash represented the death of another emperor. Surround and attack him. Surround him. The undyings wanted to surround Luo Feng, but his speed was simply demonic. The 18 that had rushed over had already fallen. No one was able to keep up with him. The silver wings flapped and he warped about, easily dodging the emperors and aiming for his next target. Whoever he killed was completely up to him. Flashes of his blade were terrifying and beautiful, and painful screams could be heard as the high and low emperors didn't have any hopes of ever being revived by the universe masters. Flee. Quickly flee. We can't take his blade, he is too terrifying. The other emperors began to flee. However, even so, their speed was far from Luo Feng's. With a flap of his silver wings, he caught up to another group and circled them. There were 3 flashes of his blade. Another 3 emperors fell. Finally, the last 5 emperors fled into the distant group of other emperors. Luo Feng wielded his blood shadow blade in the air. Gazing at the up to 200 emperors that had come, there was silence in the air as everyone was shocked by the scene before. 18 emperors rushed forward, among which, only 5 remained. There were 2 pinnacle emperors, 1 high and 2 low within. The other 13 had all fallen. 13 emperors. In the history of the Yangji continent, the percentage of emperors falling was extremely low. For 13 to fall at once, such an event hadn't occurred in a very long time. The last time it happened was probably hundreds of millions of years ago, back when Ghost Mound Emperor let loose. His name grew from that incident, as he became a pinnacle being amongst trillions of races. He actually killed so many emperors at once, some of which were high emperors and some close to pinnacle emperors. Yet they all died so easily. His blade work is perfect, and there are laws infused within too. His slashes aren't like space laws or gold laws at all, or any other laws. They all didn't know that Luo Feng was trained in the beast god path, which was the fusion of gold and space. This was extremely rare in the universe, and these emperors had never seen it before. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? A short pinnacle emperor howled. Can't you all see that he's only dealing with the low and high emperors, not ever touching the pinnacle emperors? That means his strength is insufficient, otherwise why wouldn't he attack them? Fen Nong Emperor, didn't you see Blood Beast Emperor fleeing and Heavy Arrow falling into a coma? Humph, that's enough to scare you. That human has probably used up all his trump cards already. Everybody saw it, and after all that he shouldn't have the strength of an emperor limit. To do so much means he must have paid a huge price, and he probably can only do such a thing once. Would there be a second time? And we already have over 200 emperors here. Will over 200 emperors be scared off by merely one human? You can go ahead first, stop instigating the others to their deaths. The warriors watching all had different opinions. Suddenly a boom resounded within the space about. Attention all automaton camp undyings. This sound made all the undyings look over. It was from the human young of whom they had surrounded. The silver-winged human wielding the blood shadow blade smiled. Don't worry, the Emperor limits are all extremely powerful beings. There's no way for me to easily kill them, I just have to pay a big enough price, like this thing I have here. He flipped his hand and a beautiful black crystal with red lights on it appeared. The entire crystal had 10,081 sides with lore engravings all around it. The undyings all felt the terrifying energy within. Strongest flame god crystal. 100 billion indigo gems for one. It can even kill emperor limits. Pinnacle emperors will definitely die. The over 200 emperors there all looked on with shock. This was the strongest crystal that anyone could create. As its strength was absurd, the moment it exploded, even if the over 200 undyings used all their strength together to defend against it, 90% of them would still fall. After all, none of them were emperor limit. Against the restless 200 emperors, Luo Feng smiled, simultaneously connecting to the virtual universe and contacting Shiwu Emperor and shutting off his space lock. He simply wanted to scare them off this time. He wanted them to know he is not one to be messed around with. As for massacring all of them, he only had 4 such strongest flame god crystals. He had used 2 before and only had 2 more left. And to instantly kill all the automaton emperors on Yangji continent, it would definitely enrage a lot of absolute beings in the automaton camp. The emperor limits may get together, and other powerful background warriors may want to come deal with him. That would be troublesome. Scaring them is enough. I don't have enough strength to deal with the trouble, he thought. And my strength now is obviously lacking. I'm still weak going head to head with the stronger undyings. Over 200 emperors surrounding Luo Feng. When the black silhouette Shiwu Emperor teleported beside Luo Feng, he was shocked. So many emperors. He was completely stunned. Yang, what's going on? Don't worry. Luo Feng wielded the strongest flame god crystal. When Shiwu Emperor saw that crystal, he too was shocked, after which he looked at the over 200 undyings and guessed what happened. They were all stunned by the crystal within. He couldn't help but feel respect for Luo Feng. This Yang sure has got some guts, and he's crazy enough to be able to deal with over 200 undyings. He must have some ability. Let's go, Luo Feng said. Okay. Shiwu immediately teleported with Luo Feng. They vanished and teleported far away. The distant over 200 emperors watched as Luo Feng left with his friend, and no one even tried to stop him. They were completely scared from the appearance of that crystal. This video will end here.